Imagine that you could get any kind of data fast, reliable, and cheap. And this is where Apify comes in. And I would like to give you an in-depth tutorial, or a crash course rather, how you can use this software. And I have been working with this software for quite some time right now. And if you don't know what Apify is, you can just check out apify.com. And this is exactly what this will tell you, because it's a way how you can get real-time web data that you can use not only for AI, especially for AI, but not only for that, obviously. And if you take a look at their website, then you have the section of different kinds of use cases that you can take a look into. And this will get you a rough idea of how you can use that data, right? And obviously, if you already have a couple of use cases, then this is definitely the way to go. Now, in regards to Apify itself and how it is structured, you can imagine that if I go to the homepage again, that there are several, and there are more than 10,000 actually right now, so-called actors. And actors are actually nothing but scrapers, right? And if I click on the selection that you will be able to take a look into the Apify store, then you can see that there are multiple sections right now, and you will find actors for almost any kind of platform that you can imagine. Right. And as you can see, these are like the most popular platforms that you already probably know. And you can also filter. And there are actually almost 14,000 actors right now for almost any website that you can imagine. So there are obviously the big ones like Google Maps, Facebook, Instagram, but not only social media. And then there are a couple of generic scrapers, you know, like website content crawler, which is not for a specific platform, but actually for the website that you choose to get the data from. Right. And yeah, so you can take a look into this, and then you will see what they are actually capable of doing. And in regards to the functionality, or rather the way it works, is that these actors were sometimes created by other developers, right? So they are not necessarily created by Apify themselves, but from independent developers. And sometimes they are also maintained by Apify, so that you can be sure that they are going to work tomorrow, right? And there are several kinds of pricing models, and we will get to that in a second. But this is generally how those actors work. Right, so you have a catalog of thousands of actors which were developed by Apify plus independent developers, and then you are able to use them, right? And that's how it generally goes. Now, I'm going to jump into my dashboard, right? So if you create an account, they even have, I'm going to tell you that already, they even have a free account so that you can just take a look into the data that you get from specific actors, right? So you can just try it out. And this even renews on a monthly basis, right? So if you choose the free plan, then you will get $5 of credits that you can basically use the actors for, right? And that you can basically get a little data, and then just to have a look into what you would get. All right, now I am going to jump into the console. I'm going to jump into my dashboard right here. So this is my dashboard right now. And just to give you a quick tour. So what we are not going to do is to take a look into the more boring stuff, you know, like the settings and everything else that might not be that interesting, but we'll focus on the actors themselves, obviously, so that you can get this up and running as fast as possible, and that you know where to find what and how this actually works. And it might look a little overwhelming at the beginning, but I promise you, as soon as you have done this a couple of times, it's basically always the same process. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, you have access to the Apify store itself, obviously, from the dashboards as well, right? So there is no need to jump into the public website, if you will, if you're looking for them. So if you just want to take a look around, and then you can, for instance, take a look into the lead generation actors, right? And this will give you a filtered view of what's actually there. And as you can see, there are LinkedIn scrapers, there are Google Maps scrapers. There's one very popular, which is like an Apollo replacement, right? So a so-called leads finder, which will give you actually quite some decent results. Then there's a contact detail scraper, so you can almost get any kind of data that you like. Now, this is just the store, right? And you can also take a look into the further filters, right? And you can also basically filter by developer, so you can look into what Apify themselves created, right? And as you can see, they also have multiple ones. And then obviously there are more independent developers, and then you have the sorting options. And there are multiple pricing models, right, as I've mentioned. And we're going to take a look into this. And as you can see, there are basically, at the time of this recording, 4 different kinds of pricing models, right? So you have pay per result. Some of them are actually self-explanatory, right? So you pay per result. Sometimes you pay per event, you pay per usage, or you basically rent an actor, right, on a monthly basis, in addition to the pricing of Apify itself, right? So if you choose like the $39 plan of Apify, and you will find an actor which costs $20 per month, right? Then you would add that to that $39, right? And yeah, so this is basically already in regards to the store. Then in the home section, you will have a relatively clean view of what happened basically in the past, right? So your recently viewed actors, then you have the runs. What runs are, I'm going to show you that in a second. And then further down below, you also have the option to let Apify give you a couple of suggestions in regards to what you have used before, right? So show suggested actors. And that's already it in regards to the home view, right? Now, actors themselves will be available via the actors panel. Now, where do these actually come from? And you can already see that there is a section called recent and bookmarked, right? Which is also relatively self-explanatory. So these are obviously the ones that I used recently, right? And they also give you an overview of what this cost you, how many results you got, and the basic metadata of those runs themselves, right, and how much that cost you, and so on and so forth. Now, also in addition to that, you have the bookmarked view, right? So this is like a filter that you can just take a look into the ones that you have bookmarked, right? So if you find an actor that you find interesting that you want to try out, or this may be something that you try out on a daily basis, if you will, and then you would just go into that actor, right? So let's just look for one that I'm not using on a daily basis. Let's take this e-commerce one. Then you have the option to bookmark it right here, right? And then it will basically be available in those in this actor's overview here, right? So I'm going to filter them by bookmark, and now these are the ones that I have basically bookmarked. Right. And yeah, so that's already it in that regard. Now, we are going to pick an example, right? We are going to take a look into an actor because this is relatively straightforward in regards to the that it is basically the same, right, over or across all actors, right? So we are going to pick one example, and then I'm going to walk you through the settings of that specific actor, and then we will be able to basically mirror this to all other actors as well, right? And the one that I frequently use, as I have already mentioned, is the leads finder, right? And I have not even bookmarked this, but or I did. All right, so I have the leads finder right here, which is, as I've mentioned, the Apollo scraper, right? And here you can see, first of all, it does look a little overwhelming, right? So we are inside the actors, or a single actor's view right now, right? So remember, we had the actors overview right here. Then we have the store of what's actually available in the whole ecosystem of Apify, if you will. Now we are within the view of one specific actor, right? And I'm choosing the leads finder right here. Now, their descriptions depend on what the developer chose to, right? So sometimes they might be a little overwhelming in that regard, that they give you a lot of information, you know, like it's not always like a short title, like just lead scraper or something, but they actually give you all the details sometimes. So this depends obviously on the naming convention of the specific developer. Now, each actor also basically has like an ID, right? So this is what you will find right below the title right here. So this is the name of that developer, right? And then you have the slash and then leads finder. And this is basically like an ID, which can be handy if you are working with APIs, right? So this will serve as the endpoint to that specific actor, right? Now, if you don't work with APIs right now, that's totally fine, right? And this is just as an FYI, I will take a quick look into what this gives us in regards to the possibilities of APIs, but we will not dive into that deeper, right? Now, then you have like this permissions tag, which is a new information that you can see within an actor, which basically means, and you can take a deeper look into that, this actor can access all your data in your Apify account, right? Sometimes they also give you the info of being not so aggressive, if you will, in that regard, that it just needs limited permissions and so on and so forth, but this is more like an additional type of info, right? Then you have a rating, right? So there are ratings right now, and if you click on that, then you will land in the reviews tab, and we are going to go through all of these tabs right here in a second. And this is basically also self-explanatory, right? You have ratings, you have reviews, you have comments, right? So that you get a basic idea of how this actor is perceived by the community. After this, I've already showed you this, which is the bookmark, right? So the bookmark functionality and how often it was bookmarked, then how many people have used this, and then also how many monthly active users this specific actor has, right? And as I've mentioned, then you have, I'm going to switch to the input panel just as our default view, then you already have the pricing model, right? And if you click on that, then you can see this specific actor right now is paid per event, right? So this actor's pricing details are outlined in the table below. And here you can already see, depending on the plan that you have, the pricing changes, right? So let's say for this specific actor, and it's already even mentioned in the and the title, right, that it gives me for $1.50, it gives me 1,000 leads, right? And if I open up this panel, then depending on how many or what plan you're on, then this is based on the business panel, or in the business plan rather, right? So if you are on the business plan of Apify itself, then you get basically this gold discount, and then the leads will be $1.50. Otherwise, it will be $2 for 2,000 leads, right? Which is, in my opinion, already pretty cheap if you compare it to other platforms. And then you have a couple of additional information, and this can be interesting if you have a lot of additional options, right? For instance, if you start this actor, so if you click on start right here, then this actually does cost you extra, right? So this is going to be 2 cents per start of this very actor, right? And then, yeah, so this is the plan right here. Now, if you compare all the prices, then you can see that it's even going further in regards to the plans that are there, that are available. And here you can have the look inside the complete table, right? So on the free plan and on the starter plan, it's $2 per 1,000 leads, and so on and so forth. Now, this is paid per event, as I've mentioned, right? So this is not paid per result. So depending on what the developer decided to base this on, this specific actor on, this pricing model changes, obviously, right? And if we go back into the pricing plan of Apify, then please don't confuse this with these pricings or these pricing models that you pay for Apify itself, right? Because as you can see, the $29, for instance, on the starter plan, this is something that is like a credit that you can use on those Apify actors, right? Meaning that if you pay $29 per month for your account, then these events right here, so these $2 will be subtracted, right, from your total credits, right? And this is how you can basically use all of the pay-per-event, pay-per-usage, and pay-per-result actors. In regards to the rental models, they will ask you, as I've already mentioned, for an additional costs per month, right? And how much that is obviously also depends on the actor itself. All right, then you have the link to the code to the developer, obviously. And that's already in that regard. Now, you have the big green start button, which is the most exciting and most fun part. If you get your data finally, or if you launch that actor, right, then you can save this as a new task. Now, what does that mean? Now, imagine that you are using this actor not only for yourself, but maybe for somebody else, or especially, obviously, for a client or within a company, you know, where you are trying to basically have different kinds of settings within this actor, and but you need to run it, you know, simultaneously. So tasks give you the ability to have basically something like a sub actor, right? So that you are going to have a separate actor, and we're going to take a look into that as well, which is based on this parent actor, if you will, right? So this will give me basically exactly the same functionality, and it will run exactly the same, but it will be independent from other tasks or from the parent actor, right? So that gives you the possibility to not having to change all the settings all the time, right? And so if I click on save a new task, right, then based on this leads finder, I can just name this leads finder, and then this will be version 1, and this will be client 1, right? And then I can just continue, and it will create a task for me, and this will run totally independently. So if I have a different actor or a different task based on this specific actor, I would call it client 2 or version 2 or whatever, and then you have multiple versions of this, and they can be set up and be ran totally independent, right? All right, so that's it in that regard. The API settings, rather, I've mentioned this as well already, is we're not going to go through all of this because this can get quite technical. Let's not get into the client itself, but let's take a look into the API endpoints, because this basically gives you also an idea what you can do via the API, right? So Apify itself can also be controlled via the API, right? And if you are working with something like end-to-end, right? So with any kind of, not only that, but with any kind of system, automation system, right? Then you probably will be able to use this on a daily basis, which I also do, because this will give you a lot of freedom, because you obviously don't have to extract the information and the data that you get out of those Apify actors all the time manually, right? So you can just plug into their API and then get all the data by your system. And you can see a couple of endpoints, right? So you can run an actor, synchronously, and then get the key value stored in a specific record. You can run them synchronously and then get the dataset items, which basically means that you run the actor, and as long as it runs, your own process will be paused or waiting, right, until the actor is finished itself. And as soon as that is finished, it will return all that data to your system, back into your system, right? And then you can get actor information, you can get actor versions of, or a list of versions, and so on and so forth. So there is a pretty comprehensive library of API endpoints. And that's already it in that regard. Now, one of the most interesting parts, definitely, if you are not already using an automation platform like n8n or Make or Zapier, or even a code-based automation system, then you can also automate a couple of steps within Apify itself, right? Which one of the most interesting use cases, obviously, to schedule this, right? So let's say you want to get leads, right, from a specific industry and a specific amount of leads, then and you want to get that on a daily basis or on a monthly basis or whatever, then you can basically schedule this actor so that it basically runs every time you hit the schedule, right? So if I click on schedule actor, you would just give the scheduler a name, right? You can even add a description and then obviously set up the time and day, right? And yeah, I also think that's quite easy to understand. And yeah, so and if you want to get on this on the public side, if you will, then you can just click on view on apify.com and it will give you the view that you can access without having to log into your console. And yeah, so that's already it. Now, then below all of that meta information, if you will, or that general information, you have a description, right? So you have a short description of what this actor actually does, right? So this is an affordable alternative to Zoom, Info, Lucia, and Apollo, right? Get business email, mobile number, personal email, and so on and so forth. Below that, you have a variety of tabs, right? And these are almost always the same within those actors. I'm not sure if developers are able to customize this, right? But I think they are. And but this setup, as you can see right here, this is quite common, actually, right? So this is a quite common view that you see. Now, the most important part, obviously, is to have the input tab, right? So this is where all of your personal settings go, right? And where you would set up the actor so that it actually gets exactly the data that you want, right? So if you had like an Instagram post scraper, right, which also exists on Apify, then you would need a couple of user accounts, right? So, or at least one user account from which you want to scrape those posts, right? And this will give you that. And then obviously, depending on the actor, everything concerning the input options depends on that specific actor, right? And you have a form view, right? So this is basically a no-code view, if you will, of those settings. However, this is being mirrored in the JSON view, right? So the settings that I'm going to prepare right here, when I jump back to the JSON view, is the same as if I'm using this one, right? If I'm using the JSON format. And this is also especially interesting if you're working with external systems, right? Because this is basically the input that you are able to put into something like n8n, right? And this is the body for your API call that you can send so that the actor actually has the specific settings that you need, right, for your specific execution. And so I'm not going to go through too much detail in regards to this specific actor, because as I've mentioned, all the settings that you see right here obviously differ, right, depending on the actor itself, but it will give you a rough idea of how these actors are structured, right? So you have a form, as I've mentioned right here. And then you just have a couple of input fields. So number of leads to fetch, as I've mentioned before, we're in the leads finder actor or in one of them. And then you can basically look for certain job titles. You can look for specific locations that you want to include. You can exclude specific locations. You can check only for email statuses that are validated, right? Then you can look for specific company websites. You can look for specific sizes of that company in regards to the number of employees, right? And so on and so forth. And up until down here to the very last toggle that you see right here, all of these are, as I've mentioned, custom to the actor, right? However, the last one, the run options, is almost always the same in every actor, right? And this is something that's especially interesting depending on the pricing model that you chose, right? Because it will give you this very last option right here, which is to basically select or define a cap, right? Where you want to stop scraping, right? So if you are on a budget, then I would highly advise you to use this, and this will give you a maximum cost per run, right? And above this, you will find the build version that you want to work with, right? And we will get into that tab in a second. Then you have a timeout, and this is in seconds, right? So 3,000 seconds until this actor runs out. And then you have like a memory threshold that you can also use. but I would assume that the maximum cost per run is one of the most frequent settings that you use if you are within this panel right here. And then you have the start button down here. You can save all your settings and then obviously also jump back to restore the default settings. Now, after this, you also have, besides the input panel, you have the information panel. And the information panel is also quite easy to understand because it just gives you generic information about what this actor actually does, right? And this is obviously one of the most important parts if you especially want to know what kinds of data do you get, what data points do you get, what do you need, right? Do you maybe need a specific account? Do you need cookies? Do you need whatever, this will give you the information in regards to everything that you need. However, to be honest, just try it out, just set a maximum cap and then set it to, your personal budget and then just try it out and see what the actor actually gives you at the end of the day, right? And so that's already it in that regard. Then we have a runs panel, which is also quite interesting because this will give you information about how the runs before this were, in regards to the status and if they were successful. If they were not successful, what they basically gave you in regards to the number of results, then the usage, right? So how much did it cost you actually? So in regards to the credits, right? And then if it started, when it started, when it finished, so how long it took to be conducted. Then you have the build number again, then also the memory, and then also the origin, which is quite interesting, which gives you the information if it was started from the web UI that you see right here that I'm in right now, or if it was, for instance, ran by an external system like an API or via the API or using something like end-to-end, right? Then it will say this or tell you that right in this column. And that's already it. Now, the builds tab also quite self-explanatory. If you have worked with something like GitHub, there you also have like the different kinds of versions of that specific software, in this case of the specific actor, which gives you information. All right, so which version am I using? And also gives you a little hint how active the developer actually is, right? And how frequently this is being maintained. Then you have the integrations tab, which is also quite interesting. We will not get into too much depth because this is something that is also quite easy to understand, because what this gives you is to be able to connect this actor actually with other actors, as you can see right here, or other workflows. And mentioning workflows, this is also something that we do with end-to-end, right, on a daily basis. And this is something extremely interesting because not only are you able to use this for or within end-to-end itself, but you are able to use this if you also want to basically skip end-to-end and use a direct connection to a specific software, right? The easiest way to understand this, if I scroll down to the generic integrations that you can see right here, then you can see that you can upload the results right to your Google Drive, for instance, right? Or you can send those results right via Gmail, right? And this is interesting, right? Because you can set a schedule, right, as we've now learned, and then get all of that data and then just have it automatically saved to wherever you want it to be saved, right? And you also have Airtable, or just get a notification via Slack. You also can even use webhooks, right? If you are familiar with webhooks, which are quite powerful, these are like a proprietary system, but rather a standard that you can use to send data back and forth. And so this is an easy way how you can basically export that data automatically out of Apify without having to use an external automation system like end-to-end. But obviously, you do have the possibility that you can access this data as well using those integration platforms like Make, like Zapier, and so on and so forth. And we talked about the APIs, and then you even have code-based frameworks, something like LangChain or Llama Index, as you can see right here, to be able to integrate the Apify results right into your systems. Then you have a monitoring tab, which basically just gives you an overview, in regards to the results and alerts if you have set them up, right? We talked about setting up a budget if that's necessary, right? Because obviously, if you run these on a frequent basis, then this can get quite expensive if you don't pay attention to this. And then, also how long it took and the average time on a daily basis, and so on and so forth. Then you have issues. And I have already mentioned GitHub, and this is quite similar in regards to that. You can just open up an issue, and this will basically inform the developer that there is an issue that needs to be solved, right? And you can also see how active that actor is in regards to debugging its own product, right? And this is also quite interesting because it gives you kind of like a rate, how many are open and how many are closed and were taken care of. Then you have the saved tasks tab, which we already talked about, right? So if I create a new task, let me just quickly do this. So let's call this lead finder and then task 1, and I can choose to copy the input from the input tab, right? So I can even prepare already what I want the settings of the specific tasks to be, or that specific task to be, and then it will, so within the parent actor, and then as soon as I check this checkbox and activate it, this is going to be copied into the new task, right? So if I click on continue, then now you can see that I'm basically within the task view, right? And you can see that this is the name I just gave it, and it is based on, and it says that here, task 4, and then it will give you the actor name, what this is based on, right? So if I jump back into here, and then you can see that I'm now back in the parent actor again, and within the saved tasks, now you can see that this is a saved task that I just created, and obviously you can create multiple of them. And then we already talked about this. You have the reviews panel, which gives you information of how satisfied people are. Yes, and yeah, so this is actually already the main part, right? So I ran through this quite quickly, but I believe this should have given you a quick overview. And now that we are aware of all these features and how the actor structure of a single actor actually is, all the remaining menu points and the sidebar right here are also quite self-explanatory, because as I've mentioned, we have taken a look into the actors themselves. This is what you see here. We talked about this again already. Then and now we have the runs, right? And now within the runs, obviously, you can see all runs, all recent runs, and how much that cost you, and what results that gave you. And here you can already see again the origin, right? And this just gives you basic information, right, about everything that happened in the last couple of I think weeks or months. And yeah, so this is just an overview, and obviously this is not based on a specific actor, but this is an overview of all the actors, right? Then you have the saved tasks also, right? So you have all of your saved tasks in this saved tasks overview, also not depending on a specific actor, but rather of all the actors that you are using. And then again, also here we have the integrations panel, and then you can see where a specific actor is connected to, and how and what happens, and what the URL is. And yeah, so this is this. And then also again, you have the schedules, right? So these are all the schedules that I have set up, right? And if you want to set up a new schedule, you would just click on create new, and this basically gives you the ability to set up a new one. And then you obviously have to choose the specific actor that you want to schedule. Now that's already it in regards to the most frequent options that you can use. And then we have the development part, right? So if you want, you can even create your own actors, obviously, because as you've seen, there are multiple, actually, the majority is created by independent developers, right? And this is the section that would be relevant for you then. I don't have any, but if you had, then there's the ones that you have created would appear in this panel right here. So under my actors, then you obviously also have insights, you know, how many downloads, and hopefully what you made in regards to the financial part, and then messaging as well if there's feedback from users, right? Then we won't get into the technical part with proxies and storage. Billing also quite self-explanatory, and then you have the settings, you know, everything in regards to your user accounts and so on and so forth. Now that's already it in regards to the interface part itself, and let's just quickly take a look into the results, right? Because this is actually the only thing we have not checked out yet. So I'm going to jump into the actors panel. I'm going to jump into the leads finder, and as I've mentioned, you have the runs right here, right? So how often and did this specific actor run, and what results did it give you? And you can see that these are the runs that I used. And if I go on the results button right here, then first of all, I can download the whole data set, right? And I can pick and choose what I want to download from that specific file. As you can see, we have different kinds of formats, and then you can even, this is especially useful if it's a big file, you know, with a lot of fields, then you can even choose specifically what fields you would like to export, right? And if you want to take a look into the data itself, you would just click on its name, and then you will see the output panel, if you will, right? So this is the result, and you can see this here, of a specific run, right, for this specific actor. And obviously, the result of an actor will differ, right, from actor to actor, but in regards to the overview that you see right here, it's always the same. So you have an output view, right? Then you have a log, which will give you like a console view of what this actually looked like, and also when you get errors, right, this will give you also interesting information. Then the input that was used specifically for this actor, or for this run rather, right, so that you know, all right, if you have like hundreds of runs, that you know, all right, what was the actual input and what did I get out of this. Then you have the storage view. This is a little, I wouldn't say complicated, but as you can see, this is basically the same information that we had before when we wanted to export it, right? And these are the same options. if you are working with something like init-n and automations, then this specific dataset ID, and you can see you can even copy this out of this. Then this is an interesting parameter because obviously it identifies this specific dataset, right? So if you have a lot of runs and you need a specific dataset that, depending on the input, was requested, right? Then you can use this dataset ID to identify it. All right, I'm not going to get into too much of this, and yeah, so this is already it. Now I'm going back into the output panel again, and here sometimes you also have a couple of filters, right, which also helps you to basically get a more specific overview of what you actually are looking for. So this only says overview and all fields, but sometimes you have, like social media contacts, and then you also only see the social media contact columns and everything else. But obviously, if you don't know what's inside of that output, then you want to take a look into all fields, and then you can see what data you actually get out of the specific actor. And as you can see, sometimes there are literally hundreds of columns and fields that are being returned, right? And this is also a pretty nice view because you don't necessarily have to export the data first, right, to take a look into it. So if you are not familiar with a specific actor, you would just, set up a test case and then, have like a cap this to, I don't know, 10 results or 100 results and just see what it gives you and how reliable it also is. Right. And then again, you have a preview, so you can just open it up in a new tab. So this is also basically the same view, just in a separate tab. And then you have the table view, and you also have the JSON view, right? Sometimes it's even easier to take a look into the data, and you can also use this to further analyze it, right? Using AI, right? So you can just copy and paste this into ChatGPT and then have it analyze the data, and if the data that you're looking for is there, or how it can help you to take care of the specific problem that you're trying to solve, right? If it matches a certain ICP or whatever you want to do with that data, right? And yeah, so finally, we have taken a look into what we have here. We have taken a look into the export panel as well, and that's actually already it. And yeah, so this was a very quick rundown of what Apify gives you and what it enables you to do. And especially if you are working with an automation platform like init-n, then this can get extremely interesting, right? Because you can, as you can see, schedule actors, right? And if you don't even use the scheduler from Apify itself, you can trigger this via init-n, right? So that it will be triggered by init-n on a specific schedule or by an event, right? And if you know init-n, then you know how powerful it is. And then it would just get you that data, right? And you can just pull it into init-n, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And by the way, if you want to learn more how to control Apify, and not only Apify, but literally every app that you can imagine that you can connect to with init-n, and learn all about automations and AI agents, also, as I've mentioned, Apify scraping, then join my school community. I'd be very happy to welcome you there, and yeah, hopefully see you there. See ya.